raise your hand if you're obsessed with ChatGPT, using it every day, a few people at least. So of course, the last 6 months, I've also been obsessed with ChatGPT, trying to see how it can be used in innovation, medical innovation, research. And you hear a lot about the wonderful things that ChatGPT can do and how it can replace humans and outperform humans in so many ways. And then sometimes you hear people say, well, it's just a machine, it doesn't understand anything, it's just like spitting out stuff. So I'd like today to maybe try to take somewhere in between, a position in between. There's wonderful things that GPT can do, but I would also like to raise some red flags today through the process of trying to understand how we can use GPT for innovation and research. We've come across some pretty concerning issues with GPT that I would like to share with you in the next few minutes. So first of all, on the bright side, I mean, I'm sure we've all tried using ChatGPT for ideation, summarization of text, maybe helping you write a business proposal, very impressive performance. These are just some examples in my own research. We use ChatGPT to create prompts for DALL-E to then create images for Instagram that have some theme. Let's say we want some rugged images, so we're going to use ChatGPT to create some prompts which we can then input into DALL-E to create some nice images. We also were interested in studying logo design, and so we were able to very quickly create a database of thousands of logos that vary on some brand dimensions, like charming logos, upper class logos, outdoorsy logos, tough logos, again using ChatGPT combined with DALL-E. So these are just a few examples of the wonderful things we can do with these tools. But I would like now to spend the rest of the time actually, again, being a bit more sober and thinking about some of the things we've seen that we think are a bit concerning. So suppose that you are looking at symptoms and you want to classify symptoms in the context of maybe medical innovation, and you ask ChatGPT, here's 3 sets of symptoms, A, B, and C, and then each one has 5 symptoms, and which of the 2 sets, B or C, is closer to A? Just tell me which is closer to A. And GPT will give you an answer. And if you ask why, it will give you a very reasonable explanation that will sound very professional, very thoughtful. And so we were doing this in a project, and we noticed that actually GPT tends to give us B as the answer. That's kind of weird. Let's see what happens if we switch B and C. And we got into this rabbit hole of actually trying to understand whether there's some biases that you might actually be behind GPT's answers. So to address this, we did an experiment. So if you look at this prompt, the basic prompt, we change whether we're using letters, A, B, C, or symbols, hashtag, person sign, whatever. We change whether we're using ABC versus ACB. We change the actual order of the sets. We change whether we ask GPT which is closer to A as opposed to which is further from A. And we randomize whether we're asking GPT to give us an explanation. So for each triplet of sets of items, we had 32 different prompts that varied in some factorial design by varying all of these factors independently. And then we did this for 180 different sets, 6 different categories, and within each category is 30 sets per category. So we had around 6,000 prompts that we fed into the API of GPT and just measure, what answer is it giving to us. And what we found was that actually in about 60% of the cases, GPT was giving us the first set as the answer. It doesn't matter if we're asking closer or further. It doesn't matter what actually set we're showing because we randomize which set is first and which set is second. But in about 60% of the time, it's going to give you just the first set as the answer, no matter what is actually the set. So there's a bias towards giving you the first option as the answer. It's kind of concerning because if you ask GPT only once the question and give you set B as the answer, actually it might just be because you labeled this B as opposed to C, not because it's the actually true answer. So, and so we found this again irrespective of whether we're asking closer, further, with or without justification. So that was kind of concerning. And then we looked at the prompts with labels ABC versus ACB, and we find that in up to 80% of the time, it was picking B just because it was labeled B. So even if you randomize the actual content, it's still giving you B in 80% of the cases. And so in the worst case scenario, if you have something like this prompt here, irrespective of what is actually the content of the prompt, you get B as the answer in about 80% of the cases. So if you just ask ChatGPT once a question, without kind of suspecting perhaps that there's this type of what we call methodological artifacts, you might be given an answer that is given to you just because you label this B and you put this as the first option in the set. What's interesting is if you ask GPT for justification, it's going to give you a very sophisticated reason that will have nothing to do with this, that will be very smart sounding. But actually, we're seeing in our research that there's these big biases in favor of whatever is listed first and B over C. So it's a bit of cautionary tale. We think that this suggests that we should be very careful with the chat version of GPT. Asking one question once might give you an answer that actually is biased. So we're advocating for using the API. And like we did here, asking the same question in 100 different ways, randomizing the order, the labels, even maybe asking GPT itself to give you 1,000 different ways to ask the same question, and then ask the question in 1,000 different ways, and taking maybe the average of the answers, as opposed to relying on only one single answer. So this is just one interesting bias that we've seen that I would like to flag for you as you use this tool, which is wonderful, but if you use the tool and assume that just like a human, it would never be biased in this way. Actually, well, it could be biased. So just be mindful of this when you use the tool, and otherwise have fun with GPT. It's a wonderful tool. I love it. I use it all the time. But we have to be careful of some possible issue that might arise that we don't even suspect yet. I think I'm even going to catch up some of the time here. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have today. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.